Move the light a bit more to the right. The shadows are coming. Out too deep. As Bora skillfully rotated the gimbal in his hands, he tried to hide the tremor in his dark voice. The channel's name was Beyond the Line, and tonight they had come to that cursed place, chosen by their followers' votes. Aksu Abandoned Observatory, about 50 kilometers outside the city. It stood on a hill buried in fog like a rusted giant. Taught in the 1990s, it had been shut down after the entire staff working there was found simultaneously deaf and mute. There were no signs of assault, no virus. They had simply woken up one morning, cut off from the world of sound. We're live, guys. 50,000 people are watching right now. You wanted us to perform the famous mute ritual, and here we are, Bora said to the camera with a forced grin. But the raw fear in his eyes was readable even through the lens. Inside was sharper than the cold outside. When they reached the massive central telescope chamber, the atmosphere suddenly grew heavy. There was a vibration in the air, as if thousands of old televisions were emitting static at once. On the floor, old astronomical maps and spilled drops of mercury glimmered. One of the followers that had typed the steps of the ritual into the chat screen form a circle. Sit in the center and be ready to forget the last sound you ever heard. Can set up the cameras to capture 3 different angles. Bora, are you sure? Man, the electromagnetic field EMF meter is off the charts. This place isn't just a pile of old stone zits, like it's absorbing something. Bora shrugged. More viewers mean more ads. Let's start. They sat in the middle of the circle. The ritual was simple but horrifying. For 10 minutes, they would sit in complete silence, staring into each other's eyes, listening only to white noise through their headphones. At the end of the 10th minute, when they removed the headphones, it was said they would hear the universe's true sound. This started the timer. For the first 3 minutes, there was nothing but the hiss in the headphones. But in the 4th minute, Bora's expression changed. His pupils dilated at an unnatural speed. Asken watched. What? Through the camera's viewfinder, he noticed the sweat running down Bora's forehead, turning black. Bora's sweat was like ink seeping from the pores beneath his skin. Ken tried to stop the broadcast, but realized he couldn't move his fingers. Some force had nailed him to the circle. The white noise in the headphones slowly began to change shape. It was no longer just static. It became a massive chorus of thousands of people whispering at once. Yet the dot words belonged to no known language. At that moment, all the lights in the building went out. Simultaneously, only the pale green glow of the camera's night vision remained. What they saw on the small camera screen pushed the limits of reason. Behind Bora stood a figure nearly 2.5 meters tall, completely white, with smooth skin and joints bent in the wrong direction. It had no mouth, no ears, just a smooth head. Its long, spider-like fingers rested gently over Bora's ears. Ken wanted to scream, but no sound came out of his throat. His voice flowed away into nothingness. Bora, meanwhile, began to tremble where he sat. From his eyes flowed not blood, but that thick, black liquid. Bora slowly opened his mouth, but he did not speak. From inside his mouth, a living, fleshy tissue stretched outward. It was not his tongue, more like a foreign limb trying to escape. His body. When the 10th minute ended, The headphones fell from their ears on their own, but the silence they expected never came. Instead, they began to hear everything. The footsteps of hands inside the building, the vibration of water pipes within the walls, the flow of blood in their own veins. The sounds were so intense that it felt as if their brains were being drilled apart. Bora jumped to his feet, trying to cover his ears with his hands, but the black liquid was gushing out of them. Ken grabbed his camera and ran toward the door. When he looked back, he saw the white figure collapse onto Bora, its fingers wrapped around Bora's neck, as if physically pulling his sound out of him. Bora's body began to twist in an unimaginable way before the camera. The cracking of bones echoed in the silence like a rifle shot. His kneecaps bent backward, his shoulders collapsed. Bora was no longer that human, he was becoming a living replica of that entity. "Help me," Bora whispered. But his voice no longer came from outside it, stabbed directly into Ken's brain like a scream. Ken dashed down the stairs. His flashlight illuminated black handprints along the corridor walls, but these handprints were not pinned. The wall skin had been flayed away, exposing the bricks. Beneath like teeth, the building was alive. The building was a massive mouth trying to swallow them. When he reached the lower level, he saw that the outer door was gone. In its place was only dot an endless, pitch-black void, and from within that void rose the silent scream of thousands of mute people screaming at once. That silent scream coming from the void didn't just vibrate. In my ears, shook my entire body. The ground beneath my feet rose and fell like the skin of a living animal. With every step, I could hear a slick, wet sound coming from beneath the surface. In that moment, I understood. This wasn't just a building. This observatory was now an organ of a massive, breathing entity that fed on flesh. In panic, I turned back and ran to the telescope chamber where I had left Bora. With desperate hope, I searched for an exit, for like anything. But what I saw when I entered the dot room was the deepest pit of horror. Bora was standing in the center of the room, as if knelt the skeletal frame of the old telescope. But he no longer looked human. His body had grotesquely reshaped, as if his skin had turned inside out. His muscles were on the outside, his bones bent inward. His head had elongated like a fish's, his eyes pulled back into his skull, leaving only two dark, bottomless holes. His mouth was completely sealed, replaced by a stretched, dry layer of skin. But his ears, from where his ears should have been, long, thin, bony tubes, extended outward like living. Antennas designed to absorb sound. "Bora?" I whispered, feeling my voice catch in my throat. From Boris's body rose that multi-voiced chorus. "Don't speak, Can." This is the house of silence. This is the place where God forgot words. My camera was still in my hand. I pressed record. Maybe one day someone would find this nightmare. Maybe someone would hear this scream. But what truly horrified me was my own reflection in the lens. From where my right ear should have been, a thin red vein had begun to extend outward. It was as if a seed beneath my skin had cracked open and sprouted. He felt no pain, but this horrific transformation of my existence froze me from the inside. Bora's body began to slowly melt into the rusted metal of the telescope. It wasn't blood, it was that thick, black substance flowing everywhere. This was the birth of the entity. It was growing, feeding entirely on these bodies, absorbing this silence. Suddenly, the massive telescope lens on the ceiling began to turn toward me. But it was no longer examining a celestial body. Inside it, I saw my own face magnified, twisted in terror, and I saw that vein slowly extending outward from my right ear. "What do you see, Ken?" said the chorus. The voice now came directly from the telescope lens. "Your end or your beginning?" I felt it tingling in my feet. When I looked down, I saw the skin on my feet slowly cracking open atop the old maps and mercury drops. The black liquid seeping from Dot beneath my skin flowed into my shoes. My fingertips began to lengthen, my nails turning black. My body was betraying me. Abandoning myself, I reached for my ear, trying to tear off the extending vein, but my fingers no longer obeyed me. My own hand plunged into my ear like a dagger, pulling the vein even further out from beneath my skin. Pain surged through my body like an electric shock. I collapsed, my vision blurred as the lights flickered. Another dark shape appeared in the corner of the room. A second figure shorter than Bora's, but just as smooth and shapeless. It approached me. Its long, bony fingers slowly reached for my face. "We can't let you go," the Dot figure said. This time it was a single voice, a young woman's. "You belong here too. You must hear that silence." The figure grabbed my chin. I felt the skin on my face stretch. Felt my muscles tear. It forced my mouth open. A dark, metallic smell filled me. Instead of my tongue, I felt a living, fleshy thing rising Dot up from my stomach, the same thing that had emerged from Bora's mouth. Lightning exploded. In my mind, I was losing control of my body. My consciousness was slipping away. With my last strength, I lifted the camera to my chest and turned the lens toward myself. Maybe I could record my final moment. Maybe a hope. The last thing I saw in the lens was my own face, but it was no longer mine. My eyes were pulled inward, leaving only black voids. My lips were gone, replaced by a taut layer of skin. And from my mouth dangled that disgusting, fleshy appendage. From my ears, those thin, bony tubes extended outward, trembling like formless antennas. Another being was living inside my body. Dot Can was gone. There was only one more of the silent ones. The camera was still recording, but the screen showed only darkness and static. The silent scream from the depths of the building now echoed in every corner of my mind. And there, in the darkness, unable to speak, unable to hear, feeling only the hum of silence, I took my place as a new sound absorber forever.